They're like, oh yeah, guy with Pensy Steam comes in every once in a while. They're not really much really test LED in the headlight, but we'll take this.
Known quite well by all. She's the regular combination. She's a Wabash cannonball.
Proceed to 15. Hey everybody, this is Pensy Joe back again for another in-depth review video, and today we have something very special. This is a long-awaited model that I've been dying to review for a while, and hopefully this video achieves that. This is a Tuscan Red Pennsylvania Railroad S2 brass hybrid by Broadway Limited Imports. This is a Paragon 4 model. This is pretty much the only line so far where it's shown this special paint scheme. Now in person it looks a little bit more brown than red. However, this paint scheme looks absolutely beautiful. In person it's a little bit darker and a little bit more brown, as Tuscan Red tends to look. On video it does look a little bit more red, but it's not as bright red as in the photos, which I'm glad about. And I love this keystone with the circle, this huge keystone with the circle right here. It's probably as big as a human being, that keystone. It says Pennsylvania over here with a 5, well, no, it's a 4 stripe going along the bottom, and it's a nice gold leaf color. It's amazing. Same thing with the window right here. You got that gold leaf window right, or arch right there on the window. Windows do not move, but that's okay. It says 6200. We got the elephant ears on this locomotive. I mean, this is absolutely immaculate. The only thing that some people might argue is like, hey, you know, this firebox right here, it's usually gunmetal gray on the green ones. And yeah, I guess that really is, to say the truth right there. It is, but I don't know. It doesn't really bother me on here. I could see them painting it this color on here. And I think that's completely fine in my book, honestly. I mean, look at all these brass details right here. It is absolutely immaculate, this locomotive. All the linkages and tubes and piping. Here's some of the turbine chests right here that go all the way into the middle that connect to, well, in the real-life locomotive, there would be a big gear behind these two wheels right here. And those gears obviously would connect to a couple gears right here, which would connect to the turbine in the middle, or the two turbines in the middle. So they would produce their direct drive. So what would happen is that this locomotive had a really high percentage of efficiency, especially when it's at optimal speed. So it's very highly efficient at higher speeds, and there was not a lot of steam loss when it came to this design. It was very low to steam loss. However, it was much better performing at high speeds rather than low speeds. These trucks are made out of plastic, which is completely fine to me. That saves from problems and shorting issues. The locomotive front is absolutely beautiful. Got this grill detail right here where the pumps and air tanks would be behind this. Got this Tuscan Red headlight right here. We got jeweled marker lights. They do not light up, and I don't really mind it that they don't light up, honestly. It's the same as the Q2, except the Q2 doesn't have jeweled marker lights. We got 4 smokestacks here. There's a little bit of scuffing on here, but I can always use dark gunmetal gray paint to patch that up, and you can't really see it unless you're looking directly on top of it. Not a huge big deal. I'm not going to return it just for that. Although, if it was a lot worse than this, I would probably swap it out with something different. Let me see if I can get this focused. There we go. We got overhead details as well. We got a box, looks like a toolbox up front. I'm not sure what this box is. Maybe somebody can tell me what this box is right here in the comments section. This smoke box looks a lot similar to the J, actually, which is interesting. You got your sand dome, your steam dome. You got your pop-off valves and other multiple valves. You got your throttle linkage right here. Nice metal body, brass, obviously. And you got this doesn't slide, which is a shame, but nice cool vent. You got your whistle over here. You got your dynamo on the other side. Here's your tender, Tuscan Red up the wazoo, and you got oxide red for pretty much the cold bunker and the roof of the tender back here. Really, really nice. Got a ladder right here. Got working marker lights in the rear, and you got a headlight in the rear as well. And it says Pennsylvania Railroad up here with a builder's plate on the bottom. Pretty cool. Stripes don't go all the way across, but you don't need to because you're not going to really see the behind the locomotive when you're connected to other coaches, which usually this locomotive pulled passenger trains, but it also did a little bit of fast freight in its service, which will be very interesting to do mixed matches of freight, of merchandise service and passenger service. So yeah, let's get into this review, guys. I already said a lot about the details. Next, I'm going to talk about the box, which is not very different than the other boxes you'll see, but different than a lot of the other steam engines I have reviewed in this series so far. Okay, so I already have like the box open. So you got this nice cover. It says brass hybrid. It says Paragon 4, dual mode. Now I hear in the news that they will be doing DCC ready stealth line versions of brass hybrid locomotives in the future. So if you miss out on this run and you don't want to get the Paragon 4 version of the S2, that's completely fine. However, out there, I'll tell you guys later about why you might want to get the decoder version of what Broadway is offering instead of the DCC ready version. But it's totally up to you. We'll get to that in a bit when we do the running session with the sounds and talk about the sounds. So right over here, we got information on the box. This is a fantasy scheme, Tuscan red. I like to call it the fantasy heritage schemes because they really match, the heritage. It's a fantasy heritage of the prototype as a possible what if. It's not very likely, but it's a great what if nonetheless. This is a PRR S2X turbine, as it says in the box, and number 6200, the only S2 locomotive that has been made. You got your other details down there. And decoder code says Paragon 3. It still says Paragon 3 because technically it's still Paragon 3. Whoop-de-doo, right? But yeah, I mean it's a little bit different. You got some more foam protection to keep anything from banging around or smushing the model. We got this new cloth piece right here to cover the locomotive, as well as the plastic cover that go on top of the locomotive as well. Of course, you get spare traction tires, which I will definitely be holding on to, and a coupler to go into the front of the locomotive in case you want to double head the S2, which I don't know what you want to double head the S2 for. It usually can do all of its work by itself. Nonetheless, this is a very, very simple box. It's got regular foam in here, white foam. So it's not like the original boxes from Paragon 3 and earlier where they had black foam, that nice soft foam that they had ever since their PCM days. They're pretty much done with that. Kind of, I would say personally, they kind of cheapened out on this. So I don't think it's the reason why my locomotive had a scuff mark on the top of the smokestacks. That might have been a factory issue while they were packing these things up, because I didn't see any where it showed any rubbing on the model where it could show gunmetal gray residue or anything running around in there. But yeah, it's fine, but it's when you expect something for these prices, especially with Broadway, and you compare it to other brands out there, they could do a little bit better. Just go back with the soft foam for the interior, just to put inside the packaging. You don't have to put the hard foam in here. And then, the ice cube packaging as well with the sheath that goes over the ice cube packaging so it keeps everything together. But yeah, packaging could be better. Overall, packaging could be better, just like that Paragon 3 box right there. That has black foam and all that stuff as an example. Some of them don't. Paragon 3 kind of experimented around with different packaging types. I haven't seen too much difference in Paragon 4 yet. Most of mine have had this type of design so far. So except the centipedes. The centipedes had your black foam, normal, what you would normally see in the older Broadways and the other brands out there that do this kind of stuff. So yes, improvements can be made. In the next segment, we'll take a look at the locomotive and look inside the locomotive to see what's inside the gearbox and what we got going inside the shell. Alrighty, so I got the gearbox bottom open and, yeah, I don't know. This gear looks good. It doesn't look like it's made out of nylon, but that white color kind of gives me a bit of a, kind of feeling. I don't see any major issues, although maybe the molding on the gear is a little bit kind of funky right there. But it doesn't look like it's giving it like a stress or anything like that. I see any cracking or anything like that. The gears inside are also white as well, as far as I could tell. So take with a grain of salt. I believe, though, that the quality of the gears are still fine. If anybody with like a Paragon 3 knows what their gearbox looks like and looks similar to this, and you know that yours hasn't had an issue at all, then rest assured to everybody else, you're going to be fine. Usually Broadway's drive trains are fairly reliable, especially for the, this age, where they are now. Back in the early days, they had issues with gear cracking and idler gear cracking issues, but these days they don't have that issue anymore, so I wouldn't really worry about it. Other than the guy, everything was well lubed. It's definitely well greased, that gear. These wheels are definitely well lubed as well. I could always add a little bit more if I wanted to, but I think everything should be fine. But yeah, I don't. Obviously, I believe these 3 wheels, or these six axles, are the only ones that are able to pick up power. This one probably can, but only on the lips, since it's traction tired. Which I don't know if it really needs traction tires, honestly, but it's whatever. Other than that, I have nothing but positives to say about the gearbox from this point of view, guys. Next, we'll go to the next section and we'll take off the frame of the locomotive, and we'll look inside to see what we got going on in there. Alrighty, so this is what it looks like inside the S2. Like normal Broadway locomotives, there's only usually 3 screws you have to unscrew in order to get to the bottom of the inside of the locomotive, which is right here, and right here, which corresponds to here and on the other side, as well as the central right part right here. Now this is pretty interesting. The bell's right down in there. It's kind of hard to see, actually, that the bell's down in there, but it's pretty cool. Got your air pumps right here. Pretty nice. This is where it shows the turbine system. And that's pretty cool how it goes in the center. I think that's pretty cool where the mounting points are for this to show, detail where the gears and the gearbox would go on the real thing. That's pretty cool. And these are hollow, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that at all. Obviously, when I put this back in, I'm going to have to work it back in there. There's a little bit of bare parts, but you're not going to really see that under there, so I'm not really worried about the paint as much. Same thing right here and over here. And this has got to go squeeze through that side under here. Really, really neat model. Very beautiful how that's done. What we got here is an FK185R4 HB 4022. I'm not sure what this is, but this is supposed to be a 5-pole motor. So this is a 5-pole motor, guys. It's pretty small, actually, but who knows? It seems like it'll get the job done. We got a reed switch right here to do the reed. I don't know why this has a reed switch. Honestly, this is a turbine, so when this goes faster, I guess it will make the whoosh sound a little bit faster. So that's pretty interesting in my opinion. So yeah, and then we got some wires that go into the cab to do the cab light, which is really, really cool. I really like that. And we got all these cables going to the smoke unit and the front headlight inside of there. So pretty bare bones. And of course, if you wanted to do a hardwire, there you go. Track right, motor plus, and now motor minus. Usually motor minus is on the other side, but they mix it up sometimes. You got your 3.3 volts right there to do all your lighting functions. Sensor, your ground function for your headlight, and your servo or whatever. Could be for smoke, so you can use sensor for like grounding options for, let's say, for example, this right here, and I mean, or you can just do it separately, another voltage input, or you can use an export for a firebox flicker, which you can fit over here, and it is possible to have firebox flicker to glow through the cracks around here. So if you want to, you could definitely do that at some point if you want to. So that's another thing you could do instead. But you'll have to attach to the main voltage. But however, you definitely want to do the lighting functions like that. You would have to do the headlight. Otherwise, you're gonna have to do an extra, JST, for plus and minus to do, the firebox flicker, and for this to be connected to that and be separate as outputs. So, that's something you're gonna have to think about when you're doing your own hardwire. If you don't want to do hardwire, if you want to do hardwiring, you don't like the sounds and the smoke and all that stuff for the S2. So yeah, interior looks fairly solid. I'm pretty happy with this. And we'll go right into the tender after we close this baby back up. Okay, and finally we have the inside of the tender. As we can see, we got the Paragon 3/Paragon 4 board right here. Not sure why it's not focusing. You got your capacitors in there, so it'll give a capacitance between 4 to 6 seconds. You got your lights back here for the marker lights and the rear headlight in the middle. Small LEDs on the PCB board. You got your tether right here that goes through the center, and you got your 2 main speakers. So, pretty straightforward. There's not a lot going in here. As you can see, there's some unpainted brass in here, which is fine. You're not going to really see inside there, obviously. And we got some areas where it keeps the model from shorting with this nice tape in here. Pretty interesting. But yeah, pretty simple. It's a Paragon 4 board. You know my thoughts about them. However, the sounds, we'll get to that in another segment soon. I'm going to close this up first, and we're going to talk about the sounds for this model and hook up the Broadway Limited train set to this and give her a nice test run. Alright, now that we're on the layouts, let's fire up this locomotive and see what she's got. Cool, headlights on. Alright, locomotive's all fired up. Let's test the bell. The bell sound file could be a bit better in my opinion. It's alright, it's just I wish the sound file was better. Let's test the whistle. I think the whistle's alright, it's just, again, the sound quality could be a bit better. However, the turbine sounds on this model are absolutely superb. There's probably nothing like it in HO. I have looked up Luxound steam turbines, and the only thing that's a steam turbine, like a true steam turbine, is a German locomotive, and it was like loud as a jet airplane. Now, I'm not sure what the real steam turbines sound like. Of course, I never was around back then. But I didn't really see a lot of accounts saying it was extremely loud, unless I'm wrong and I'm looking at the wrong areas for information about the PRR S2. Yes, those jeweled marker lights in the front do look like they're on, but they're actually not. Though, to be honest, jeweled is pretty good, It is pretty good. Sometimes it's even better than lighted in case you don't want to see wires or anything like that with actual lit marker lights. So, the cab light's also on, which is pretty cool in my opinion. We got crew figures in there, which is really nice. We got some multiple sounds going on at once, which is great. I did have this thing smoking yesterday to do a quick, break-in run for 30 minutes. So we'll turn on the smoke unit. And there we go. We got the 4 smokestacks making smoke, which is really cool. Really, really nice. I'm going to turn that off. And we're going to put this through her paces. Now you're probably wondering, why am I not playing the other sounds? And that is because they're typical to other Broadway kind of stuff. For example, that's F14. You've heard F14 so many times on other Broadway Limited models ever since Paragon 3. So most of the sounds are pretty much the same. The whistle is the same for the S2 since Paragon 3, and the bell, except the bell is at a faster rate than the Paragon 3 version, which you could probably adjust with the CVs if you wanted to. Okay, so obviously with these wonderful Broadway Limited coaches by Walthers, which unfortunately the S2 was not around when these coaches really came out. These coaches came around in 1953, and the S2 was scrapped before 1950, obviously. And unfortunately, I'm gonna turn that off. But honestly, it's a really good looking train, especially with a consist like this. The Tuscan red turbine with this beautiful Tuscan red coaches. you know, is just immaculate. Well, I thought the sound turned off. So yeah, the obviously the turbine sounds are like nothing else on the market. Yes, you got the gas turbine sound out there by Athearn with their GTEL, and then you got the Big Blow by Scale Trains. But those are gas turbines. These are not. They're not like this steam turbine. It's more whooshy. But if people could prove me wrong that the real steam turbines are a lot, louder and a lot more high pitched, then it might convince me to convert it one day. However, I'll probably hold off on that until maybe TCS WoW does a steam turbine done right. Until then, I have to say, guys, this is probably the best that Broadway has to offer when it comes to their sounds. Really, mainly just the turbine sounds. This is the only Broadway model I would recommend not really modifying unless you really, really want to. Because the turbine sounds by default are completely fine and they sound great in my opinion. The whistle and bell could sound a lot better. And so far the performance is great, but however it doesn't have a crawl. Though this model is not going to really go slow. In real life, this model was made for, in real life the prototype was made for high speed. And as you can see in the running session clips, it can fly. It could definitely go fast. However, this model was known to go like over 100 miles per hour in real life for the prototype. It's just... I don't feel like it has enough speed, and I feel like with a better decoder and some CV changes, this could go a lot faster, this locomotive. Anywho, I hope you guys enjoyed this in-depth review. I've been waiting to do this one for a long time. Obviously, we didn't get into all the sounds because once you play one set of Broadway Limited, sounds other than the whistle and bell sometimes, you've played all the sounds for Broadway Limited models. So, again, this is the Tuscan Red Fantasy Locomotive. Pennsylvania Railroad, of course. And this is Pensy Joe signing out, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye now.
Hear the lonesome hobo squall, riding through the jungle on the Wabash Cannonball. Well, the eastern states are dandy, so the western people say. St. Louis to Chicago, Rock Island by the way. From the hills of Minnesota, where the rippling waters fall, no chances can be taken on the Wabash Cannonball. Oh, listen to the jingle, the rumble and the roar, as she glides along the woodland to the hill and by the shore. Hear the mighty rush of the engine, hear the lonesome hobo squall, riding through the jungle on the Wabash Cannonball. Now here's to Daddy Claxton, may his name forever stand, and may he be remembered in the courts throughout the land. When his earthly race is over, let the curtains round him fall. We'll carry him home to victory on the Wabash Cannonball. Oh, listen to the jingle, the rumble and the roar, as she glides along the woodland through the hill and by the